Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll just wait for Mrs. Robb. Here she is. Okay, good evening. My name is Emily Bonadonna. I'm the principal at the primary school. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. I know this is dinner time, going into bedtime and family time. So we really appreciate how much you care about your child's education going into such a unique school year. So thank you for taking the time to listen. So the goal for tonight is really twofold. The first thing that we really want to focus on is answering your questions and sharing information about things that are specific to the primary and elementary school. I know a lot of the information that's come out has been really for the whole district. So we wanted to be as specific as possible if you have a child in the primary or elementary school. The second piece is that we really just want to ease some of your worries. We know that the kids and that you as parents are, you're struggling with how things are going to go this school year. And as administrators, we have a really hard job, but anyone with a parent of a school-age child, I think, has the harder job, and just making sure that your kids are still excited to come to school and that they're feeling safe and excited. And so we hope that by answering some of your questions and sharing some things that we can ease your mind and have you feel good about your kids coming to school. So first, I think I just want to go through a few logistics and I'll turn it over to Mr. Amesbury. So what we'd like to do as far as the format for tonight is spend the first half sharing some information through a slideshow. And then following that, we will open it up to some questions from all of you. And hold your questions similar to Jamie Farr's forums. If you'd hold your questions to the end, we may be able to answer some of them throughout the presentation. So, if you have something to write with, jot them down as we go, and we will get to as many questions as we can towards the end. We'd like to keep this to an hour because, as I said, we know this is dinner time and bedtime and family time. So we're going to try to be respectful of everyone's time in that way. So I think with that, I'll introduce you to Mr. Amesbury. Brian Amesbury is the principal at the elementary school for grades 3 through 5. And I'm going to introduce the rest of the panelists for tonight.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I'm so excited I get to introduce the rest of the panelists here. So you just heard from Emily Bonadonna. So she is the primary school principal for UPK, kindergarten, first and second grade. Lindsay Lazenby is the assistant principal here at the elementary school. So Lindsay and I are the administrators here at the elementary side. On my screen, the next person on my screen is Heidi Robb, and she is the assistant principal for the primary school. So Emily and Heidi work together for UPK, kindergarten, first and second grade. And then the other person on our screen that we're lucky to have joining us is Christine Page. So Chris Page is the assistant director for special programs, and she works in the primary elementary school complex across the entire complex, UPK through 5. So like Emily said, I think she's going to share her screen and we're going to get started with a quick presentation. And we're hoping, the first part of our forum here tonight is just to have this presentation. And then the second part of the forum would be to answer questions. I know they're already coming in. If you can, hold off on any questions until we're done, because we might answer them along the way. And then at the end, we'll try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. So again, here we are for our building community forum here. And on the next slide are 2 pictures of our schools. And so for me, when I look at these 2 pictures, one of the primary school and one of the elementary school, I see a lot of joy and a lot of happiness. But I know that for a lot of our kids who haven't been in school since March, looking at 2 pictures of the school might bring some anxiety, a little bit of angst. And so our biggest challenge right now is just to make sure that we are communicating with all of you. We're communicating with the kids and the families, and I think that's the only way that this is going to work. And so with that theme of communication, I'm going to turn it over to Christine Page, and we'll really start this presentation about our communication between home and school. So go ahead, Chris.
Hi, everybody. And I appreciate how many of you have called or reached out with questions. There are a lot of questions, but we hope that many of them will be answered tonight in this presentation. One of the things that parents are asking a lot is, what do I do that first day of school? And the first thing that you have to do before you get on the bus or put your kids in the car is open up your Brave Square app. If you just click on your Brave Square app, you're going to see there at the bottom, there is a little strip and it says submit daily health screening. And so you need to make sure that you take your the temperature of your student who's coming or your students and answer submit the daily health screening. If you go on the website, you can also reach it, but the format might look a little bit different if you click the Brave Square app through the website, but you will see a drop down, and along this red line at the bottom, you will see where it says health screening. So please do make sure that the first thing you do is take your student's temperature and check in with Brave Square.
Speaking of Brave Square, this will be our main form of communication. And many of you know this if you were part of the primary elementary school or in any way, shape, or form with Canandaigua City School District. So Brave Square, you can get it on the App Store. It's a free app. And that will be all of our communication, district level, building level, and even from your teachers. So please make sure you have that app and you're checking it regularly. When we do communicate this year, go ahead, Emily, and go to the next one. You'll notice that we kind of have this little system. So we have students that will be virtual. Those are our students that are learning from home 5 days a week. And then we have our hybrid students that we've broken to two groups, the cherry students and our gray students. For the most part, that's our last names A through K and L through Z, but there are some exceptions. So when you are looking at your communication, please make sure that you are looking correctly, whether your child is virtual, cherry, or gray. That's going to be really important in all of our communications. Go ahead to the next one. So we have a little calendar here for just the first couple of weeks of September. So I know that Jamie has communicated many times through the community forums, and you've had it through Brave Square, but next week after Labor Day, we will have 3 superintendent's conference days. So those are not learning days for your children or for any of our students. Friday, September 11th will be the first day, but it is remote for all of our students. So nobody will be here at the primary elementary school. One of the things that you'll see that day, and maybe even before that day, that we're really excited about is that our Dean of Students and a team of teachers have been working on some videos for some of our Braves. And it's really about what a day in the life of a Brave will be. So it will have videos on expectations around social distancing, wearing a mask, what it might look like in the school. And then we have some students asking some frequently asked questions with some answers. So you can be looking for that, and you can watch it on that first remote learning day, or perhaps even sooner. Then if you look to the next week, you'll notice on the 14th and 15th, our cherry cohort for our hybrid students, they will be at school, while at home will be our gray cohort of learners. As the week continues on, you'll notice that on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, cherry will be learning from home. And on Thursday and Friday, we will get to welcome our gray hybrid students into school. That entire week, our virtual students will have kind of their first week of their normal schedule. Another important date we want you to know about, next slide, is picture day. This is important for you to have ahead of time. I know this has gone home in some of the communications. On this, you'll notice in each of the corners, we have October 26th and 27th. There's our cherry students, and we have that color coded for all of you. So just so you can start to see that communication, how you'll see it with cherry and gray. And October 29th and 30th will be picture day for our gray students. And that will happen during their PE classes. We're trying to do as much as possible without paper. So if you could visit canandaiguaschools.org, the picture forms and everything will be right there on the website, so you can do that ahead of time. You'll also find some more information. Our virtual students can have their picture taken, and they can do that at the Click Studio.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our different management systems, and we heard a little bit about the communication tool, but these are 4 logos that you are going to see and hear about all the time. So we just want to make sure that you understand the difference. So I see the cursors over on the S. This is Schoology. Our students in grades 3 through 5 and actually 3 through 12 will utilize Schoology. The purpose of Schoology is really to post assignments, for students to turn in assignments. It's the place where instruction is going to live, especially when students are working remotely and virtually. So if you have an elementary school student or all the way through high school, you will definitely get to know Schoology. At K2, and they will be using Seesaw. And am I correct, K2, or is it UPK2? UPK? Okay, so Seesaw is a different learning management system that we've really done some research to find that this is going to serve our littlest braves to help them be independent when they are learning at home and needing to submit some assignments. My own son used this in a different district, and I was really impressed with the way that he was able to independently turn in assignments. So we're hoping that this is a great improvement for our primary school students. So their instruction will also be here in Seesaw. So Schoology and Seesaw. In the middle is Infinite Campus. If you have students that are already part of our district, you've heard of Infinite Campus, you've probably received emails from Infinite Campus. This is where we keep our student data, including grades and information. So this syncs to Brave Square, and it helps us communicate better with you, but it also allows us to make sure that all of your child's information is secure. And then we've spent a bunch of time talking about Brave Square, but you can see on the far right-hand side that this is the way we are going to communicate throughout our whole complex, UPK5. So even though we are utilizing Schoology and Seesaw in terms of communication, that's where you will receive emails and communication from your classroom teachers. So these are 4 very important logos. Right now, this week, we have Chromebook and iPad pickups going on over at district office. And you can see on the side of this flyer that it involves a whole bunch of different students. And it's still going to go on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you really kind of have to take a look at the flyer because it does address many different students and grade levels. But basically, if you are in grade 2 through 12 and you're a hybrid student coming into school 2 days a week, and you've already been in our district, you do not need to go to the pickup. Now, there always are some exceptions. If you're new to our district, you obviously do need to go and get a device. The other thing you can notice is that 4th, 7th, 10th grade virtual students are going to be doing some exchanging. We rotate every 3 years to upgrade and make sure that we're still keeping new devices in the system. But this is going on at district office, and we want to make sure that everybody is ready to go for the week of the 14th. If you have any questions, feel free to give one of our offices a call and we can explain it to you. But taking a look at this, if you're virtual, you really do probably need to get over and pick up a Chromebook if you have not done that. I know that kindergarten orientation is tomorrow. Am I correct about that, Heidi and Emily? Not tomorrow. Nope, that was wrong. Apologize about that. But I do see that the iPad pickup for kindergarten is next week. It is not this week. So please make sure that you take a look at that lower section that our kindergarten hybrid students will be picking up their iPads next week.
Lindsay, can I just interject something?
Sure.
Emily, I'm not sure if you can get that a little bit bigger, but there is the portal help question website where you can go and you can get your questions answered. For example, in the chat, someone was asking, is Brave Square and Parent Square, are those the same things? And they are. But for example, somebody else said, oh, I don't have the health button on Brave Square. And that might not be active for you yet, but it will be. It's probably active for me because we'll be answering staff and faculty will also be answering that health question through Brave Square or Parent Square. So yes, they are the same thing. But if you get into a jam and you're not sure, that Portal Help website is available, and you can get that right off the website as well.
And I did note one more thing. It does say to bring, if you're exchanging, make sure you bring the Chromebook or iPad and charger that you currently have. And if you're picking up a new device, please make sure that you bring your ID, and we're all wearing masks.
And just to clarify the kindergarten orientation, I know some people are wondering, UPK and kindergarten meet and greets will be on the 8th, 9th, and UPK, some UPK on the 10th as well. Your child's classroom teacher will reach out to you individually for a sign-up time. So you don't need to do anything for that yet. Your teacher will reach out to you soon to set up a sign-up time.
Awesome. All right, so I think I have the next slide. Yep, and it's all about cleaning protocols. I feel like I have learned so much about cleaning protocols, so much more than I ever wanted to know over the course of this pandemic. So I am going to highlight just a couple of things in here so that you are aware of the cleaning protocols that are happening at the school. But please know that this is top priority coming back to school during this time. This is during this health crisis. This is top priority. So restrooms is something to highlight. They will be cleaned 3 times per day. We have a lot of community bathrooms here at the school. So those community bathrooms will be cleaned 3 times each day during the school day. Another thing to highlight is the fact that we will also be doing those deep cleans on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So that's in between the cohorts of students. So in between, whenever we get a new cohort of students into the building, we will have cleaned the day or 2 days before that cohort comes into the building. And then one other thing to highlight, and I don't think it's on this slide, but UPK is a half-day program, and it will continue to be half-day. And there will be cleaning that's happening between the AM and the PM session. So I want those families to know, especially those PM families, to know that the classrooms will be cleaned between the 2 sessions. If you have questions about cleaning protocols, really feel free to reach out to the building administration. We're happy to answer any questions about that. And so on the next slide, it talks about, you're going to see signs like this throughout the building. So if there's any students that are watching this, you're going to see a lot of signs like this throughout the building. And these are things, at a school, it's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. School is about teaching and about learning. And so a lot of the kids that are coming to school are learning how to wear a face covering for the first time, or really learning how to maintain that physical social distancing, something that we've never really had to experience before. So I'm going to hand this over to Chris Page, but just know that this is something that is definitely going to be discussed and talked about, and the kids will be learning things to help keep them safe throughout the school year.
So I'll put in the chat here in a few minutes a couple of resources for helping students. We will be using social stories and common visuals and teaching these routines explicitly within these first couple of weeks of school. So kids who are coming in and meeting with us face to face, we know that you're teaching them these things at home, but we will also have these routines and common visuals and support for social distancing in the building. Again, some of these resources we will make available in the chat, and then will be made available in some of the future mailings that come home. The next slide is really just some of the things that we know that you're thinking about, and we know that we're going to be explicitly teaching kids. We are going to be teaching about washing hands, about keeping your hands from your face. We know that kids are kids, kindergartners are kindergartners. I have an 18-month-old who's got his hands in his mouth all the time. So we understand that developmentally, there are some limits to what we can do, but we can teach, and that's what we intend to do. We'll talk about clean masks. Just to note, there have been some minor changes in the CDC recommendations. So masks with valves are no longer allowed. Gaiters that you pull up, I just ordered one, a nice one, a Canandaigua gaiter, and I can't wear it now. So if you've got just a plain mask, or even, you know, your just regular old run-of-the-mill, they don't have to be fancy, but masks are important to be clean, and we're going to be teaching kids about how they need to be covered. You see people in the stores all the time who are not fully covered, and so practice now with your student because they need to get used to wearing the full mask up above the nose and down below the chin. We will have mask breaking places where kids can take their masks off, but they are going to have to be washing their hands a lot. So just remember, the more you touch your face in that area, the more you have to wash your hands. So we'll be practicing with all of those procedures and how to remove masks. Those will be things that we have social stories and videos to support kids. And again, if you have concerns about your individual child learning some of these routines, like Lindsay said, just reach out and let us know, and we can support you with that.
So I have the next slide here, and we're switching gears a little bit from safety to some of the more procedural things. So arrival and dismissal, we've had a lot of questions around what that's going to look like. As you know, we're really encouraging families to provide transportation for their child to school so that we can decrease the volume of students on the bus. So with that in mind, you know, that means that we really want to make sure that our arrival and dismissal goes smoothly. If you have other children in the building, you know that dismissal and arrival is not always the fastest process. We have one entrance on the West Gibson side, and then we have one entrance on the North Pearl side for buses, and you know the lollipop loop on that side as well. So we have a lot of students and families coming in and out of the building, and not a lot of ways to access that. So we've really spent a lot of time this summer working on a new plan for arrival and dismissal. And we're hoping that the new plans that we've been working on are not just going to happen for this COVID, you know, restricted year, but we can take some of these ideas and continue to use them for future years. So we are so close to finalizing some really great things. So we don't want to share too much quite yet because we have to finalize just a few more pieces. But I did want to share as much as we can at this point. That we are finalizing the new dismissal plan, and that it's we've really streamlined things with the technology department to make the process smoother and safer. So the primary students you see two images here on the slide. The primary students, UPK to second grade, will be dropped off. Actually, this should say K to second grade. Will be dropped off on the West Gibson side here at the Link entrance. The elementary students, grades 3 through 5, will come in and be dropped off and picked up. We call this the lollipop loop on the North Pearl side. So if you have 2 or more children, you know, who happen to be in both buildings, we'll ask that you use the West Gibson entrance for arrival and dismissal. UPK, you'll have a more specific plan for arrival and dismissal, and we'll share that with you at a different time. Let's see. So this plan the specifics of this plan will be communicated in the next few days. Really, we could spend an hour talking about just arrival and dismissal. So we just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming in the next few days. The idea is that parents are going to remain in their vehicle for arrival and for dismissal. So we're hoping that change alone is really going to be move things along and still be safer. So stay tuned for that. If you see something through Brave Square come in about arrival and dismissal, please pay close attention to that. It's going to be really important. And thanks for your patience on this. This is a big project and it's really important to us. So we want to make sure we get it right.
I think I'm supposed to start this next slide. And I think the reason I'm supposed to start is because I'm supposed to talk about the moose in the picture. I'm not really sure. We added these moose to the picture, and to the slide here just right before we started, and we were debating, and maybe this is like a bonus question. This will get the kids' brains activated to start the year. When there is more than one moose, what is the plural of more than one moose? So just trying to keep it light in the middle of this presentation, but we do have more outdoor learning spaces. So something that we've never had before is some outdoor learning spaces. So we'll be sharing some more information about that, but what we are looking for on the complex is to have some log rounds cut for students. Those could be like the chairs for the kids to sit on. They'd be socially distanced and sitting outside, which we know is definitely preferable over sitting inside during this health crisis. So look for more information about some outdoor learning spaces for our classroom teachers. Specials, I can really just hand this over to Mrs. Lazenby if Lindsay, you want to talk about specials, but specials are still happening here at school. And I think Lindsay can talk a little bit about what art, PE, and music might look like this school year.
Okay, so when students come into the building for the hybrid model, on one day, whether it's Monday or Thursday, they will have either PE or art one day, and then the next day on Tuesday or Friday, they will have, they'll have PE every week, and then they'll have either art or music on the other day. The following week, they will then have either art or music, but they will remain with PE at least once every week. And they will also be having lessons that are also posted to Schoology. So students will be able to engage, they would have PE twice a week if they were in school and it was a typical year. So we're trying to replicate that even in the midst of this, crazy year that we're starting. For virtual students, they will also have specials. They will have art, music, and PE every week, and that will be built into their schedule. And some of those will be synchronous and some of those will be asynchronous. So your special teachers will be reaching out to you. They will also be communicating through Brave Square, and specials will absolutely be happening. And we know many students are excited to get back to PE and art and music. When we think about lunch and recess, we will be having lunch and recess, and students will be eating in their classroom at the primary elementary school. So that will be a change for our students this year. They will be able to go to the cafeteria and get lunch if that's their plan, is to buy lunch, but then they'll bring it back and have a supervised lunch in the classroom. Recess will still happen outside as long as the weather is nice, and recess will happen by cohort. So fewer students will be in an area at a time, and they will need to social distance and wear their masks outside. Obviously, they can still take mask breaks outside if they give that distance and they're 12 feet away from another student. But we know how important lunch and recess are for our students. When they're in lunch, obviously they won't be wearing their mask because they're going to be eating. So we will ensure that all of the students have 6 feet of social distance between themselves and the other student as they're eating lunch. Heidi and I worked a lot on the lunch recess schedule. So I don't know, Heidi, is there anything you want to add about lunch or recess? Is that good? Okay. I think we're moving on to our next slide.
Okay, I've had a lot of people reach out and ask the question, my child has special education services. They have an IEP, so can they attend 4 days a week? And the answer is not necessarily. You have to look at your child's IEP and see what services they are receiving. So you can see at the top with related services, so OT, PT, speech. If they only get related services, then they will come 2 days a week, whatever cherry or gray cohort they are in. Their services may be face-to-face when they're here in school, or could be scheduled during their remote days with teletherapy. So through Zoom, our related service providers have done a lot of work to provide engaging opportunities for kids through teletherapy. Those schedules have not been set yet, so I can't tell you which your child will have. For ICTs, for students who have ICT on their IEP, those students will be coming 2 days a week, and then they will be remote the other 3 days a week. So they will follow the cherry and gray cohorts as well. Students in 15 to 1s, they are coming twice a week, and then they will do their remote learning based on cherry and gray. The only students, if student's IEP says 811 or 1211, those are self-contained special classes. And because of the nature of the program, there's much less mixing of students. So they are kept in a separate group, and that makes it possible for us to follow the CDC guidelines initially. We want to get everybody back face-to-face 5 days a week, and that's really our goal. So let's see how we do safety-wise, getting this number of kids in the building and programming, and then we will revisit at CSE if there are concerns for any students who are really super struggling. That's what the committee is for, but none of those decisions will be made outside of committee. So if you have a concern and you're really worried about an IEP, reach out to me. I've talked to many of you by phone and emails, so we'll figure it out. I promise you that.
So we really want to assure you and let you know that we know that this fall is going to be tough for a lot of kids coming back. They haven't been in a school building for 6 months. And we want you to know that we are going to meet them right where they are, both academically and socially, emotionally. And we'll talk about that social emotional piece in just a minute. But we know that that needs to come first. But we also know that you probably have questions around instruction. So we did want you to know that teachers have worked this summer to really prioritize standards and look at what maybe we didn't get to last year and what has to be a priority for this year. And then knowing that we're not seeing students as much as before. So how can we prioritize those? Some of you are probably worried that your children are falling behind, or maybe some of you have seen so much growth in your children. We will have intervention for children that need some extra support. And we also will have enrichment for children in any of the learning models. So please know that this is what we do. We're going to meet your kids right where they're at. We are going to assess early on to kind of see what are they coming with so that we can best support them on an individual basis.
Unmute here. Okay, so I have the next slide, and I know Mrs. Robb touched a little bit on just knowing that the needs this year of students are going to be a little bit different. So, you know, we want to make sure that students feel safe and supported and know that has to take priority before they can actually learn other materials. So we just wanted to acknowledge that and let you know that that is really important to us, and that we are, you know, going to do our best to address that with each individual student right from the first day. So just know that there will be a focus here. And just to ease your mind a little bit, and just know that our teachers are trained in responsive classroom, and that really focuses on making sure that students feel connected and feel like they're a part of, you know, their classroom and their school community. And that community building will be a big part of the child's day. We have 2 days of in-person learning, so community building and making sure they feel a part of something is going to be really important for us. And also, you know, our mental health team is aware that there are going to be unique needs, and we may have to adjust some of our counseling groups so that students are feeling safe and feeling heard, and that everyone, you know, is feeling maybe differently than in other school years, and that's okay. So again, this is really just to let you know that we understand that and that this is really important to us.
Yeah. So this is the last slide of our actual presentation, and then we'll get into some of the Q&A. And you know, this is our if you read Jamie's email that we sent out today, you know, Jamie Barr, our superintendent, really talked about in there, in a time of crisis, you really get to see whether your mission and vision statement holds true. And when I look at this page, it's something I've seen a lot over the last year. You look at that first part where it says one community, and that's really what we are, is one community. It's interesting, over the last several days, I've gotten a lot of emails and texts from teachers and community members just saying, you know, thanks for all the hard work you're doing. Is there anything we can do? You know, we're looking forward to the start of the school year. And a lot of people have been just so gracious and so positive, and that really does make a huge difference. And I think that's what's really going to set us up for success during the school year, is that positivity and that graciousness. And I know we've been asking for a lot of patience as we go through this, and a lot of school districts are asking for patience of their community that they serve. And we just really appreciate all the patience and grace that you've given us. So at this time, I think what we're gonna do is stop sharing our screen here, and we're gonna start answering as many questions as we can. So this is the part of the forum where I have on the bottom of my screen, oh my gosh, it's already happening. The number of questions coming in is rapid fire. We have about 25 minutes left, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we possibly can, but I just know that we won't be able to get to all of them by 7 o'clock, but we will certainly try. So Heidi is going to be kind of our moderator. She's going to be the questions and maybe answering a little bit along the way. So go ahead, Heidi.
Can teachers provide one-to-one instruction?
I can take that one. You know, that's a great question to start with. This is going to be a tough one to answer. Teachers can provide one-to-one instruction, but we have to really maintain that 6 feet of distancing and wearing a mask. And so those are our guidelines that we're trying to work with, and it's going to be challenging, but I know teachers are getting creative.
And there was a similar question about small group instruction and guided reading, how that can happen. And the answer is really the same as what Brian said. We need to maintain that 6 feet and wear masks, and our teachers are amazing, and we're going to do the best we can with some small group instruction as well. There's a question on laminating. As far as I know, we're still going to be doing laminating in the building. Another question, can pre-kindergarten students get tablets? They will be getting Chromebooks this year that will stay at home, both for virtual and hybrid. Okay, another one. My first grader is feeling anxious about the first day of school and finding his new classroom. Can a map be provided of how to find his room, or will his individual teacher share photos of the room so he can ease his discomfort?
I can answer that one, Heidi. So I know a lot of the teachers are going to be doing just exactly what you had mentioned. Many of the teachers will be doing virtual meet and greets, or just as you said, taking pictures of the classroom to share it with you so that kids know what to expect. We realize that a lot of our first graders only spent, a half a year in school. So it's almost like a follow-up of kindergarten year where they didn't have a full year to get fully acquainted with school. So we know that anxiety is there even for first graders. As somebody, I think Lindsay at the beginning of the presentation mentioned that there will be some videos with our Dean of Students, Mrs. Scammell, and some other teachers and us as administrators as well. Just a little tour of the building to show you what things look like, what it's going to look like with people having masks on, what it's going to look like in classrooms. So we're hoping that will ease the mind of your sweet first grader, because I know they're worried.
Do I need Schoology too if I'm virtual learning? Is it mainly for attendance and report cards are loaded to Brave Square? So I think it's really, do I need Schoology if I'm a virtual learner? Yes, if you're in grades 3 through 5, UPK through 2 will be Seesaw. What will students do during indoor recess?
Can I answer that one just a little bit, and maybe some more people want to chime in? I was talking with a recess monitor today. So we're going to try to get the kids to go outside for recess as much as possible. So we have different recess locations around the building. on the property of the building, around the building. And so we'll try to get as many opportunities to get outside as possible, but we will try to ask students to bring things maybe that are appropriate for them to do so that they're not sharing materials with one another. If you want to add to that one.
Well, we were just trying to create a list, and we're definitely open for, for other suggestions, but kids love to draw, kids love to watch videos. We have some yoga videos you can find on there, smart boards, and dance videos, and there's different types of, I was thinking too, like some kids literally just want to sit down and have a quiet space to read or just to chit chat. So, if we have to be inside because of weather, we're going to be trying to find ways that kids can unwind and relax and enjoy the time that they have for recess. So, but we're definitely open for some suggestions.
So there is a question about the drop off and pickup times. And I do think it was asked prior to when we talked about that, but more information will be coming on the details of that. A couple primary questions. Why aren't virtual kindergarten students afforded the same iPad technology as hybrid students? And also, will there be a kindergarten bus run?
Okay, I'll answer those too. So for kindergarten, I know there's been a lot of discussion around iPads versus Chromebooks. And really what it comes down to is we need to make sure that every kindergarten student has a device. And we also have to take into account the fact that these little ones will be taking devices to and from school if they have one device. So the way that we have it worked out is each in-person student will have an iPad here at school, and they will have one at home so that they will not have to transport their device. And this is good in a lot of ways, but that means that we have less devices to offer the virtual kindergarten students, and we still have Chromebooks for them, and they actually have a feature where you can flip them around and use them as a tablet in a very similar way. And honestly, the Chromebooks are not second to the iPads. I think that with the use of them every day, that the kindergartners will adapt to that. And really, it's just a matter of availability and making sure that every kindergarten student has a device. And I think the second question was around the bus orientation. So unfortunately, one of our favorite events is the kindergarten bus run orientation, where parents can ride the bus to school with their child and really get the first day of school experience. And because of all the restrictions, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have that this year. But as a replacement for that, we are having in-person meet and greets where students and families will have the chance to practice walking into school, seeing their classroom, practicing the route of how they get there, meeting their teacher, seeing their classroom space. So we're hoping and we think that the teachers will, and other people there helping will help everyone find a way to make their child feel comfortable and come into school. And so sorry that we can't have parents ride the bus with their kids, because we know how fun that is, and hopefully we can get back to that again someday. But the volume of people on the buses is really what's holding us back from that.
So a couple cleaning questions that are very similar. It's around the bathrooms that are in the classroom. So many of our kindergarten and first grade classrooms have bathrooms in the classroom. Those, because they are with a cohort, they will not be cleaned 3 times a day. They will be cleaned daily. So we are confident that we'll do our best to keep those clean, but it'll be the community bathrooms that are cleaned 3 times throughout the day. Can teachers still use worksheets with their students?
I can answer that question. Teachers can still use worksheets with their students. When students hand their worksheets back into the teachers, what we're hoping, or what we're asking the teachers to do, is let those worksheets sit for a period of 24 to 48 hours before the teacher grades them and collects them. So the biggest thing here to let you know is it might be a little while before your student gets the feedback on a worksheet. So yes, teachers can continue to use worksheets. However, we really are pushing Schoology and technology use, and that way students can receive timely feedback for the assignments that require that. Heidi, do you care if I go back really quick? There was a question about indoor recess that we already talked about, but I am getting some messages from some of the art teachers saying we can provide more art lessons and activities for kids to do during indoor recess or on days that they're not able to share materials and things like that. So the art teachers are for that one.
Great. I'm going to go through a couple questions quick here. The slideshow available for download. We will work on that and make sure that you have access to some of this information. Neck gaiters. It's not that the district is banning those. Those are no longer considered something that we can use. So there are a lot of questions around that people are pretty disappointed. I have 2 children at home that are also very disappointed about that. What if your internet is down and you can't complete that screening? It's a great question. So if you're unable to complete that, we will have a process here at school to make sure that those children that did not complete that we do screen at school. But please understand that that really has to be an exception, and we do need to rely on all of you to help us out with that, because there's just no way with the amount of students we have coming in the building that we're going to be able to do that. So if something happens, certainly we're there to help, but really do your best to get that screening done before our students come. Okay, next question. Sorry, I'm struggling. I'm confused. Dismissal on the elementary side, if pickup is at West Gibson bus loop. Someone want to kind of recap that where the pickup is?
So for the elementary students, so students in grades 3, 4, and 5, drop off and pickup will be happening in our Lollipop Loop, which is the entrance is right at North Pearl Street. So not the entrance that's the closest to district office and the bus loop, but the one that is closest to the elementary side of the building. There is going to be drop off and pickup happening there. Have more than one child. So if you have a kindergartner and a 4th grader, for example, we are just going to use the link entrance at the primary side off of West Gibson Street for drop off and pickup happening there. I hope that cleared it up.
So another question, why 12 feet apart? I think they're referring to that really cute.
The moose? I know, the moose.
So the 12 feet is really because anytime that somebody is active, like in PE, so heavy breathing or using an instrument, the guidance is that they need to be 12 feet apart. So that's where that 12 feet came from. What about students that are accelerated and usually have classes with other teachers? How are those students going to be engaged and be able to continue with advanced work?
I can answer this one. So if students are in our enriched math program, which is maybe what some of our parents are thinking about, typically maybe 3 classrooms would each have some students that received those services, and they would move to a different classroom for math. That will not be happening, at least for the first part of the school year. So they will still be receiving enriched math, but they'll be doing it in their classrooms and have their teacher meeting those needs. We have Michelle Reynolds on the primary side and Lynn Kalitz on the elementary side that work with our students and our teachers. And so they will continue to support any students that receive enrichment services, both virtually, remotely, and when they're here in school. So it will look a little different for the beginning of the school year, but students will still be challenged, if they are part of that program.
One of the questions is, do you have an estimate of the total number of kids that would be in the building on a hybrid day? And I'm trying to read these questions and do quick math in my head, and I'm not able to focus on both. It's a great question. I don't have any, do any of you have an estimate?
No, but Heidi, I'm disappointed in you.
I am too.
If anyone
Give me a minute.
knows-
Someone else look at questions and I'll have it.
Mrs. Robb is our math person.
So
But
great question. I'll be thinking about it and we might come back to it.
All right. Yeah. Heidi, I could try to come up with something, but I'll let you really think about that and come back.
Well, we do want the answer to be accurate, so I'll get.
All right. Yeah. Don't rely on me then. That's right.
So do hybrid students have to bring their Chromebooks the 2 days that they're in class? No, they actually don't. We're working to keep some existing Chromebooks that maybe have been discarded. So the children will have access to Chromebooks while they're here at school, so they do not have to transport them back and forth. And that's for all of our kiddos. Will students have set class subjects that meet online at specific times while home learning, or will it be like it was in the spring? I'm gonna say, let's answer this question as though it's a remote day, not the virtual.
Yeah, I can start, and then again, other folks jump in. Here's the thing is when the kids are home, it's not going to be like it was during the spring, because of the fact that we have increased expectations for our students. So we are providing, the Chromebooks. This is something that we're planning for much better than we were in the spring. During the spring, we were all kind of forced into a situation and navigating it, and we didn't really have a plan as we were moving forward. As we go into the fall here, teachers are planning instruction for those remote days. Most of that instruction is going to be asynchronous. And that's because the teachers at the primary elementary school will have a cohort with them here at the school on those opposite days. But there will be feedback given and assignments through Schoology, but it will be mostly asynchronous. The kids log in on their own and they do their work. It will not be as much, there will not be as much synchronous instruction where the kids are maybe joining a Zoom meeting and working one-on-one with a teacher.
So what will we be doing to help our third graders feel comfortable in a new building on the first day, and also to navigate their way to their new classrooms?
I can start with that, but again, Lindsay, jump in here. We know that transition from second to third, although it doesn't feel like a huge transition, it is, because these kids are going from the primary building to the elementary building, and sometimes we do forget about that. But we are having, it was mentioned a couple of times, the video that our Dean of Students is putting forward is going to be a great resource for the kids to use. And another thing is that all of our teachers are going to be reaching out to their families with, an introduction letter, and that'll be an opportunity for you as a family to reach out to the teacher and ask questions that you have. And just so that you know, we're hoping that we timed this okay. Students should have received placements through Brave Square about 3 o'clock today, or sometime after about 3 o'clock today. So at this point, most students should know who their teacher is going into this upcoming school year. So if you do download that Brave Square app, this is an opportunity for you to get in there, start thinking about questions that you have, and the teachers will be able to respond as early as next week to start getting back to you and answering some of the questions and concerns that you have.
And there will be so many staff out and about on those first few days to help our students find their classrooms. We have some of our teacher aides coming in early, so that way we've got more people on the bus loop and the drop-off area so that all of the students can find their classrooms. A question around medication. Will there be a medication drop-off?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times what happens in these situations is the nurses have a list of the students that have had medications previously. So they generally reach out to those families with an email or just communication saying, hey, feel free to drop off your medication at these specific times. I will tell you that we are in the building starting next week, September 8th. And so any time you want to drop off medication during the time that the teachers are here, so anytime around 8 till about 3:30 p.m., you should be able to begin dropping off medication September 8th, 9th, 10th, or 11th. It would be fine for you to drop off medication here at the nurse's office if you're a family that does drop off medication.
Will there be snack time?
I can answer that. Let's be honest, these kids get hungry. We can still have snack time. I know that the individual classroom teachers usually set up a procedure for that, and the classroom teachers will just have to make sure that all of the guidelines are followed. And I know that they do so, anyway, but in this case, kids will need to have their masks off so that they can have snack. So they'll need to be 6 feet apart so that they can take their mask off to have their snack, but we will still be having snack.
Are children able to turn and face each other?
Yeah, so I'll hop on one. So yes, we are practicing that social distancing of 6 feet apart and wearing a mask. During the school day, kids will be turning and facing each other. Most of the instruction, it is a little strange. You walk into a classroom after some of the teachers have set up the rooms here at the elementary side anyway, and the desks are in rows and facing the same direction. And it is a little eerie to see because it brings me back to when I was in elementary school. It was much more traditional. A lot of teachers now have gotten into flexible seating and group seating. But just for the safety of the kids, a majority of the classrooms are having the kids facing the same direction, and the desks are 6 feet apart. There are times during the day that, yes, the kids will be turning and talking with one another, and they will have their mask on.
Here's an elementary question. It's around band, but maybe you could talk a little bit about band, chorus, orchestra.
So band, chorus, and orchestra, we are working with our music department to really try to come up with schedules that make sense for band, music, and orchestra. And so I don't have really great answers. I will say that start the year, we will not be introducing beginner band at 4th grade. However, the music teachers are coming up with ideas around how do we introduce these instruments to our students at 4th grade so they become familiar with them, and then they can make decisions about which instrument they would like to play when they have the opportunity to become a band student. So I know there's a lot of questions around band, especially for 4th grade, because it's kind of a rite of passage at 4th grade to become a band student. But we will get more information out about that, and our music department specifically will get out more information about that. It is tough because we don't have a lot of spaces here at the school to keep the kids socially distanced in large groups like you would normally see during a chorus performance or orchestra or a band performance. Heidi, if it's okay, I do want to talk about one other thing.
Yep.
I'm concerned about this, but I think this is one area where Canandaigua has really been ahead of the curve. And I know that Chris Page, you were always excited when these were being installed in the classroom. So every single classroom has an amplification system. So the teacher wears around his or her neck kind of a lanyard like this, and on the bottom is a microphone, and the microphone then does amplify throughout the classroom. So I do worried about that, especially for some of our students that are either deaf or hard of hearing, and but it's great for all of our students to benefit from that. So while the teachers are wearing their mask, their voice can be muffled, but those amplification systems do work. They work extremely well, and I think it's to our benefit here in the school district that we have those in every classroom across primary and elementary school.
And we also did order some masks with clear face shields in you can't just wear the mask or the face shield alone, but there are some masks that have a clear square here. So in some cases, when it's important for a student to see the lips and how they move and what sounds we're making with our mouth, there are special masks that we have ordered for teachers in that case.
Heidi, our numbers are starting to dwindle a little bit, and we did say we would go till 7 o'clock. Do you want to do maybe 1 or 2 more quick questions?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. I was trying to scan to see some themes to see if I'm answering quite a few, but we will have the transcript of these questions so we can see what people are wondering. And then when we send out communications, we can make sure to address these questions. So one of them, I've seen several people that said they didn't get their placement today. Please contact either the elementary or primary office, depending on what grade, and we can make sure to do that. This was our first time using Infinite Campus to Brave Square, so we appreciate your patience. I'm sure you have a child and perhaps yourself, that's really sad today. But definitely get in touch with us tomorrow and we can make sure you have that information. And then a question I'm seeing quite a few times is around the virtual day. What are the school hours? The school hours will be the same as if they were in the classroom. You will get a schedule from your virtual teacher that has that information as far as when the synchronous times, meaning that live instruction, and then when the rest, some of that independent work. But you will get a daily schedule ahead of time, but plan on those same hours as though they were in the building.
And then for virtual special education services, they may look slightly different than what's on your child's IEP. If that's the case, then Stephanie Knapp or myself will be reaching out to you. We've looked at our existing groupings and staffing to really determine what's the just right balance for your kids and for teachers. So we'll be reaching out for some of you about virtual special education when it comes to how to implement the IEP from a distance.
Heidi, there is one last question maybe that I could touch on, and that question that has been coming up is asking whether or not if a family, if a family doesn't like hybrid, can they switch to virtual, or if they don't like virtual, can they switch to hybrid? And I do think it's important to bring up, this has been quite a process for us as an administrative team over the summer to work through this. The first thing that we did is send out that survey to the community members and really asking you and the families, make a choice that you can live with until January 29th, because at that point we'll reach back out and you can make a change at that point. But so here is an example. We have every classroom can have no more than about 24 students in the class, and we've assigned virtual teachers and classroom teachers that are here in person, and classes are full. So when we do make a change, we might be going over an amount of students in a classroom that is not preferred to have a high number of students in any class. We were very careful to only pull virtual teachers if they were needed, so every class is really at its max right now, and so it would be very challenging to try to move a student from virtual to hybrid. And I want to make sure that that's clear to families, and we'll work with you. If you have challenges in the setting that you're in, we'll try to work with you and problem solve before we have to try to make that change. But I think it's past 7 o'clock. We said we would go until then. Our numbers are really dwindling now at this point. And again, I just want to say from my point of view, thank you to everybody that's logged in and is watching this. I think it's been really beneficial. This was our first go as a team to do a community forum like this. I think we did okay. We didn't do too bad. But thank you, everybody. And Emily, I'll turn it over to you to say good night to everybody.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Mr. Amesbury said. It's a nerve-wracking time for everyone, and we realize, trust me, we realize that a lot of the things that we're saying in trying to follow these guidelines sound ridiculous when it comes to what school looks like for kids ages 4 to 11 or 12. It's having these Department of Health guidelines really. We know that it's what's safest for students, but it's so different from how we implement school. We want kids to be working together in small groups and collaborating and learning how to learn with different types of, kids. And we're gonna make it the new norm, and we're gonna make it a happy time for kids at school. But we know that some of the information that we're sharing, your eyebrows might be raised and you might be saying, how is that going to happen? How are you going to do that? We get it. Most of us were teachers as well. So we know that our number one priority has to be the safety of your kids. So in order to do that, we're going to follow these guidelines the best that we can and hope to give you some comfort that they're going to be safe at school. So thanks again for joining us, and we're going to try to answer the rest of these questions in some more communication. I hope everyone has a great night, and say good night to all the babies at home for us. Thanks, everyone.